Coming up here at 4:30, Governor Andy Beshear reveals his $2 billion education overhaul and a recent change in how cars and value could possibly cost Kentuckians more when it's time to renew their car tags.
And more quiet weather on the way for the first half of the work week. I'll have the very latest straight ahead as First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
Good afternoon again. I'm Dakota Makris. Kentucky lawmakers are getting right to work on the next spending plan. Last week, the Kentucky House unveiled their proposal before the budget addressed by the governor. Today, the governor said not only did the House break tradition, they may have broken the law. Governor Andy Beshear also unveiled his education priorities today. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on how the governor says Kentucky is in position to make historic education spending decisions.
There is a combination of a rapid recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic as far as the economic impact. Also, with the state's economy surging, the governor states that there is enough to make game-changing budget decisions for the state. Last week, the House unveiled their priorities ahead of the governor's budget address. They are proposing universal, full-funded kindergarten and thousands of dollars in classroom funding, but the governor says he wants more. And the big part of his announcement today is centered on universal preschool, every 4-year-old able to start their education in public schools. And he says his budget funnels more into the classrooms through SEEK funding than the Kentucky House proposal.
And we are providing a 12.5% increase in the SEEK base per pupil funding formula for elementary and secondary schools. This investment provides an additional $397 million over the next 2 years.
The governor says what the House did in unveiling their House budget proposal first was unprofessional, unwise. He says it may even be illegal. But the House budget leaders say that their proposal came after hearing from various stakeholders for several months in both the public and private sector. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Well, the governor plans to unveil his complete budget on Thursday. A letter from the Department of Revenue is leaving several Kentucky state representatives and local county clerk offices upset for Kentuckians. The Department of Revenue Office of Property Valuation conducted its annual year-end motor evaluation late last month, which revealed the ongoing limited supply of used vehicles and increased dealer interest for used vehicles could leave many Kentuckians paying more when they renew their tags.
Obviously, no one likes to think of any taxes going up, especially in, a time as uncertain as we've been facing in the last year or two. So as a lawmaker, I intend to go talk to other lawmakers and in the majority party and see what we could do about this.
Representative Hatton adds that any tax increase will be a case-by-case basis and will not affect everyone.
Continues to be a beautiful looking afternoon, but it feels, well, just like you'd expect it to feel in early January. Chilly outside. I-75 in London, you see very few clouds, if any at all right now. Looks nice. In fact, not even a lot of traffic there on the interstate. We take you up to Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County. Still a beautiful look, but upper right-hand corner of the screen there, yeah, it's in the mid-30s. In fact, we continue to see temperatures in the middle and even some lower 30s out there. Wise at 32, Pikeville's at 33, some upper 30s, Middlesboro's at 39, Jacksboro, our only station, checking in at 41 right now, feeling like the low 30s and upper 20s thanks to some of those breezes out there, upwards of 5 to even 15 miles per hour. Pinpoint Doppler, a clean sweep around the entire region. Those green boxes are flood warnings, longer-term flood warnings left over for the Red River and for the Kentucky River after the flooding from this weekend. No additional rainfall expected, at least through the beginning of the week. We're still watching a few of those clouds pushing through the Big Sandy, but outside of that, it is a quiet one out there. Upper teens for lows tonight, clear and cold. Some of us, though, may only end up in those lower 20s. I'll have the latest on when we could see some milder weather and when some showers could return coming up in just a few minutes. Dakota?
All right, Evan, thank you. Well, a remarkable reunion in Afghanistan as a baby lost during the chaotic airport evacuations 5 months ago is reunited with relatives. CBS's Tina Kraus has the story from London.
Sohail Ahmadi was just 2 months old when the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan. And thousands scrambled to escape, triggering chaos at Kabul's airport last August. In a desperate move to keep Sohail safe, his father handed him to a U.S. soldier, thinking he would find him again when he got past the wall. But the Taliban pushed crowds back, and by the time the family made it through, Sohail was missing. The infant ended up in the arms of Hamed Safi. The taxi driver says he found Sohail on the ground at the airport crying. After trying in vain to find his parents, he says he took the boy home to raise with his 3 daughters. Sohail's parents searched for their son for 3 days before boarding a flight to the U.S. with their 4 other children. The family was devastated and posted desperate pleas to find Sohail on social media. Now, nearly 5 months later, the baby's grandfather was located still living in Afghanistan. It's a historical day for us, he says. I'm so grateful my grandson has been returned. But it's a bittersweet reunion for the father who had to give him back. The boy's parents, who've now settled in Michigan, hope Sohail will be brought home to them soon. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
The baby's grandfather told the man who had been caring for his grandson that God would bless him with another baby boy in return for the kindness they showed. Hospitals across the country are seeing a massive jump in pediatric admissions for COVID in recent weeks. In just the last 7 days, the CDC says an average of 824 children a day were admitted with the disease. But it is important to note that the number does not include kids who were in the hospital for other reasons and then tested positive. Despite that, certain hospitals like Texas Children's Hospital are also seeing a surge in children going to the ICU with COVID-19, and children with health conditions like cancer are even more at risk.
It's difficult. We see healthy children come in ill, and we see children with other comorbidities, as we call them, get very ill as well.
Doctor, have you had to intubate children?
Yes, we have.
Doctors say as more kids get COVID, they need to focus on those who are the sickest, which is increasingly difficult because parents are bringing children without severe symptoms in for testing. Hospitals ask people to go to a pediatrician or urgent care instead. At least 17 people were killed, nearly half of them children, in a devastating fire in New York City. Officials say the fire started in a 2-story unit on the 2nd and 3rd floors. The flames only damaged the apartment and nearby hallways, but with the door to the apartment left open, smoke escaped and began to fill the entire 120-unit building.
Members found victims on every floor in stairwells, and we're taking them out in cardiac and respiratory arrest.
City officials say the children killed in the fire were all under the age of 16. Now, some people who lived there say that at first they ignored the sound of smoke alarms because false alarms are common in their building. Australian officials have released tennis superstar Novak Djokovic from detention, and judge has ruled he can't have a visa. That would allow the world's #1 tennis player to play in next week's Australian Open. Now, he had been detained because he recently recovered from COVID and is not vaccinated. However, the athlete may still be deported. The government could decide to cancel his visa again tomorrow. The Australian Open is set to begin a week from today. Minor League Baseball has gotten its first woman manager. Rachel Balvec confirmed Sunday she has been hired to manage the Tampa Tarpoons. The Tarpoons are affiliated with the New York Yankees. The move comes after the Yankees hired her in 2019 as the first woman to be a full-time hitting coach in a Major League Baseball organization. Before that, the 34-year-old worked with the Houston Astros, St. Louis Cardinals, and Chicago White Sox. Well, coming up here on First at 4, a major U.S. bank is the first to enforce a vaccine mandate. Workers have until the 14th to prove vaccination.
And finally, a chance to take a breath after a busy start to 2022. I'll have the latest on how long the quiet weather looks to last on the way.